I can either build an app that may or may not have a lot of impact. It will have a lot of breadth. Um, but what do I really want to do? Let's go for impact. If you're talking about developing leadership skills, those are impactful skills.
Yeah.
They're going to drive your success throughout your whole career. They're going to make a difference for your trajectory, where you're going to be a manager or a VP or a CEO.
Yeah.
So I really thought about, okay, we're going to figure out how to have impact, and then we'll figure out how to scale.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Stephane Panier, who is the CEO and founder of New Level Work. Stephane, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
1000%. Tell everyone a little bit more about you, about New Level Work, who you guys are, who you help, and what the business is all about.
Sure. So I'm a co-founder of New Level Work. We started the company about 8 years ago under a different name. It was called Better Manager at the time. And then we expanded and changed the name about a year ago.
And how did the company come about? How did you decide to start the company? What was that spark moment where you're like, let's get this thing going?
Yeah, I was actually looking for a way to give back. I think I was very fortunate in my career early on, and I wanted to find a way to give back. And I wanted to do something that had a social impact and that I was good at. So I asked my team, what am I good at? And they said, you're a good manager. I didn't really think I was a good manager. I didn't really have the skills, but it told me two things. I think I was a good manager, or they perceived me as a good manager because I cared. I care about people.
Yeah.
I cared to make sure that they were successful, that they had growth opportunities and so on. But also it told me that if they thought I was a good manager, then the bar was very low. So when the bar is very low, it's a market opportunity. So that's how I thought, how do we make this, you probably heard the phrase, people don't leave companies, they leave managers.
Yeah.
So how do we fix that? And initially I thought we would build an app for that. I'm based in San Francisco, California. Everything, we're talking about 2016, 2017. Everything's about building an app. But before I went and built an app, I thought, hey, you know what? Let's check about the market first. So I interviewed about 60 people, that would be either buyers or users. And the feedback was, no, we don't want an app. We want a coach. And then, I thought, well, great. Now I'm not going to get funding from Sequoia and all those big coaching businesses. They're not going to think it's scalable. But if that's what the market wants, let's try to figure out how to make that happen.
Interesting. And so tell me a little bit more about what specific type of coaching you guys do. Who exactly are you helping? What is New Level Work all about?
Yeah. So we really focus on leadership development. So the coach is a very broad name.
Yeah.
You have life coaches, almost therapists. And you have business coaches, executive coaches, and we're definitely on that side. Every one of our coach has at least 10 years of leadership experience prior to becoming a coach, and they're all ICF certified. So they went through ICF certified programs and so on. So we really err on the learning and development side of things, not at all on the well-being. We do care about the well-being of people, but we want our organizations to achieve it through their managers.
For sure. 100%. So it sounds like you guys are partnering with organizations, corporations, institutions, things like that, who can really take the benefit of what you guys offer and massively expand what they have going on. Is that about correct?
Exactly. So we sell to mid to large enterprise. We sell to the learning and development team. And initially we started with only coaching. And then along the way, we learned that training was also very important, and we could also be combined, and we could actually create what we call leadership journeys, where you have a bit of coaching, a bit of group coaching, and some training. And so we built, so in 2019, we launched our training. And then more recently, we launched an AI that does also training and coaching, either by itself or in combination with a human coach.
Very, very interesting. And I want to ask you a little bit more about kind of the beginning stages here, where you were trying to make that decision and figure out, am I going to do the app? Am I going to do the coaching? How that obviously is going through your head. Because I think so many times in entrepreneurship, people see this amazing shiny object, which in your case, it was the apps, right? What everybody was doing, the big companies were being founded and funded as well.
Yes.
So there was such a high interest in going that way. But what was your thought process in analyzing everything, making those decisions, and then figuring out and then cutting everything away? I was like, hey, okay, we're not doing the app. We're doing this other thing. what was going through your mind, and how did you go through that process to make that final decision that you did?
It was really about listening to the customers, right? About listening to them and understanding, well, I can either build an app that may or may not have a lot of impact. It will have a lot of breadth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what do I really want to do? Let's go for impact. If you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to talk about developing leadership skills, those are impactful skills.
Yeah.
They're going to drive your success throughout your whole career. They're going to make a difference for your trajectory, where you're going to be a manager or a VP or a CEO.
Yeah.
So I really thought about, okay, we're going to figure out how to have impact, and then we'll figure out how to scale.
Yeah. One problem
And the
at a
thing
time.
is, actually, at the time in 2016, I thought maybe AI could help, a bit ahead of my time. And I went to talk to VCs about it. How would you think about building an AI leadership development business? And they thought I was being funny.
Oh.
Yeah, this is never going to happen, not in our lifetime.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, wait 6 years and see what happens.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast things are evolving. And I'm sure I'm going to probably butcher this, but I believe it's Moore's Law that says technology is advancing or twice the speed and twice the size, or something along those lines, or it doubles in speed every year or doubles in size every year, something along those lines.
Yeah, it's the number of chips on the number of transistors on the chip doubles every 18 months.
Exactly. That's what it was. And it's crazy because, yes, it starts slowly, but then that exponential curve starts really happening. And then in my head, I'm like, it starts going so far up, it starts going backwards. But probably that won't happen. But it's always interesting to hear.
I didn't listen to the VCs. I mean, they're all very smart people, but and I wasn't an expert, so I wasn't encumbered by knowledge. So in 2019, we started recording coaching sessions just to create a data set.
And that's how it went down.
With all the approvals, all the agreements, the purpose was really to train our coaches, but also to get data to eventually train an AI. It was never my intention to build a model. I always thought the Googles and Microsofts of the world will be building the models.
Interesting. But it just ended up working that way. Huh, that's quite cool.
It kind of did. I mean, Google built a model, Microsoft with OpenAI. All those big, my idea was, and it was right, that my thought was it would be very expensive to build the first models. But you could create a niche if you had your special data, right? If you're the only ones who have access to a specific data, like thousands of hours of coaching, expert coaching, and which we have, then you have a niche, and you can use that data to refine the model.
Interesting. Very, very cool. And talk to me a little bit more, Stephane, about as you're growing the company, how are those challenges as that's happening, and how do they differ from the challenges that you possibly face now? I know before we started the recording and a couple of days back, we had a brief conversation where politics and things came into the conversation. I was like, what's going on? So without disregarding that side of things, which we don't have much control over, right. I guess the challenges internally and when looking at the growth of the business.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we're working in what we do is not independent from the environment most of the time, and I will say most of the time because I was at Google relatively early on, from 2002 to 2008, and Google was a rocket ship. And 2002 was an economic crisis. Google was just growing, hundreds of % per year at that time. And it didn't matter what happened around it. It just took off. Our business being what it is, which is, initially coaching, was much more subject to external factors. Google could demonstrate return on investment. You put $1 in, you get a $10, $20, $100 back in sales. Proving the return on investment on coaching or any type of leadership development is much more challenging. And it is also the first thing you cut if you run into a recession or fear of a recession or a pandemic, which we did. So it's been ups and downs. I will say the post-pandemic world was amazing when everybody was talking about the Great Resignation. Employees were leaving, so companies were really trying to find any which way to retain their people and train them. I mean, there's a time in 2022, in 12 months, we quadrupled our business.
Wow!
So that was really exciting. That was faster 100%. Than I thought we could grow. But it's a bit more quiet after this, right?
Interesting. And Stephane, it's to me, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but you sound like a person that's very ambitious, always looking at the next thing that's maybe not the next thing, but how to improve, how to level up, how to step up, how to get the most out of everything that you're doing. You sound like that type of person to me from now, and also the last conversation that we had. How do you view one, if that's correct, as you're building a team, or more so correct?
Yeah, it is overall. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, okay. As you're building a team and you're building a company and you're building that structure, how do you look at being able to transfer that over to the culture of the company so that everybody that's on the ship alongside you
Right.
is going into the same direction with similar mindsets?
Right. Right. Well, I think the first element is the ingredients you put in, meaning the people that you hire.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make sure there is cultural alignment in your recruiting process.
Mm-hmm.
It's as important as technical skills. And to go back to Google, whenever we hired people, they had to hit the technical marks, be smart and everything, but they had to be what was called googly, right? Would this be somebody you want to go to the cafeteria with and have lunch?
Mm.
Would they fit in?
Hmm.
Same thing here. Even though we're all remote, we got to make sure we find people that embrace the values and are passionate by the mission.
Yeah.
We're lucky to have a mission that is relatively easy to accept or to join, right?
Mm.
We want people managers to be better at managing people. That's simple. The better ways to put it together. But the idea, a lot of people who are managers create ill will, stress, and pain, and not because they want to.
Yeah.
Because of lack of self-awareness, lack of skills, lack of training, and we're trying to avoid that. So it's very easy to embrace that mission.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the biggest mistakes people, managers and leaders, make when they do it the wrong way? They aren't able to transfer the message over to their subordinates, or maybe anywhere on the team. What are like the top few things that they just don't look at it correctly?
Yeah, I mean the typical thing, and we see a lot in Silicon Valley. You get your best engineer and you make them manager of the engineering team. Okay, so why are they the best engineer? Because they're really fast, because they know engineering, all the tools really, really, really well, and they have attention to detail. Okay, now take those skills, and as a manager, how's that going to work? Well, you're going to get frustrated because the engineers that are not as good as you, the ones that didn't get promoted, are not as fast. They may make some mistakes, and you're going to create some tension. Why? Because you're going to show you're irritated by how slow and mistake prone they are. And what do you create now? You took your best engineer, so you lost your best engineer, and you have a bunch of very disgruntled engineers that are working for this guy who's a superstar.
And a poor performing
as
manager.
an engineer, but not as a manager. I'm talking about engineer, but it's true in any field.
Sales, whatever else. Yeah.
Accounting, law, everywhere, right? You're going to have the same problem. So the reason to promote people are not the right reasons. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, there's not two ladders, right? There's one way up the management route.
Yeah.
In some tech companies, like Google, there are two. There's a technical route. You can become a technical expert and end up, after so many years, making as much money, having as much responsibility, if not more, as a technical expert than you have as a director or a VP. And you don't have to manage people. Some people are better in that, going to that direction, but it takes a special type of people to be good at managing people. You have to be self-aware. You have to be humble. And that's not always the case for the superstars.
Yeah, well, that makes so much sense. I really like that perspective, and thank you for sharing that analogy. That was really, it's great to ingrain that, like, hey, specific situations, it matters. It fits for everybody, but this specific one here, that's so awesome. When you're looking at your entire career and you're just looking back, are there any one, two, or biggest lessons that you've learned either from a challenge, a failure, or from mentors that you've had in the past? Maybe just one, maybe a big one that always sticks with you.
I mean, I go back to, hire the right people is always very important. Trust but check. And that's a personal thing that I always support the people that I work with. I want to ensure their success, their well-being and growth. And I've made mistakes of being over trustful, and that doesn't help anybody. So if there's one thing that one of the many things that I've failed at is, not checking enough in the details at times.
Not micromanaging, but making sure things are going well.
Exactly. I'm not talking about micromanaging. I'm providing the support and
Of course,
checking.
for sure. 100%. That's awesome. Anything to add there? Sorry. It sounded like you were going to say something else, but if not, that's all cool. Okay, awesome. Cool. I have a couple of final questions here for you as well, Stephane. This is a question that has become now a frame of the podcast. I've been asking this to everybody, and with you, it's going to be no different. So here it is. Let's say you had this amazing magic wand here, and you could just wave this great wand, and this amazing wand can just solve one challenge, one obstacle, one thing in the business that would make you hitting your growth goals just like that. What's the one thing you'd like to solve?
Okay, so we talked about the difference between a Google and a leadership development business. The Google, it can demonstrate the return on investment. Leadership development, not so much. It's there. It's just harder to capture because coaching, training happens over time, and many things happen over time. So it's hard to say, oh, this business did much better because of the leaders were coached or trained. So many other things may happen at the same time. So the magic wand would be able to really measure return on investment.
Or showcase that return on investment.
Be able to showcase it and be accurate and trustworthy, because then my business and any business in leadership development would explode.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And the final question here I have for you, Stephane. It's actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were. So are you ready for the question?
Sure.
Here's what they wanted to ask. What delights you every single day about your work?
That's easy. I receive the feedback from our users, from our clients, the ones that are getting coached. And every time they finish their program, they are asked a few questions. Usually, the rating of our coaching is 9.8 out of 10, a 96 net promoter score. They tell us in that feedback what we did for them. And 9 times out of 10, we changed their lives for the positive, obviously, I should say.
Yeah. Good.
So that delights me. I start my day, I read those reviews. I'm off to a good day.
Interesting. Out of curiosity, do you also showcase that internally for the leaders and the people that are like in the trenches within the company, so that they also get that same value that you're getting from that?
We do. We share it. Yeah.
Is there a specific
anonymized, but we share it so that they know that they're having an impact. Yes.
Yeah, and I found it so interesting that I can't remember exactly who said this, but they said that a lot of times businesses or I guess the people that are really in the trenches of like doing the sales, doing the marketing, whatever else, they are so deep into the work that they can start forgetting the impact that they're actually having. So I heard of someone who, just similar to yours, as soon as there's a review or an impact or a feedback or everything that was positive, they just feed it straight to the people that are in the trenches of like, hey, everything that you're doing that is such hard work, this is what it's for. And then it's just like that extra boost, so that it even increased performance as well. So I wonder if you had a specific system to do that as well, or are you just like kind of feeding that back to them?
The system just sends an email automatically.
Oh, awesome. Perfect. So there
of the feedback. Yeah. So that, and then on a weekly basis, one of my colleagues will read through the key feedback and share that to all our coaches. So the email feedback is within the company, the staff,
of course,
and the broader weekly broadcast video is shared with all the coaches. So they also get to know the impact they are having, because at the end of the day, they're the ones doing the work. So it matters
100%.
that they realize.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Well, awesome. Stephane, thank you so much for your time. This has been such an incredible conversation. Thank you for sharing your stories, your insights. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you or maybe about New Level Work?
Well, www.newlevelwork.com, or just reach me on LinkedIn, Stephane Panier.
Amazing, Stephane. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Thank you.